100 million. That's where a lot of photographers want to go to. 100 million naira in Nigeria. But this is you. You are currently charging 50,000 naira. So the journey from going from 50,000 to 100 million in a year is why you're going to watch this video. Because in this video, I'm going to explain to you how you could go from charging 50,000 naira to you earning over 100 million naira in revenue in 2025. So if that's you, something that's interesting for you to do, watch this video to the end. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mayo. I'm the Clarity Coach. I help photographers build profitable businesses, sharing with them simple strategies that work. And in today's one, it's going to be epic. In the last video, I explained how you could use prospecting to hit your revenue target in 2025. You talking to 5 or more people in order for one of those persons to be able to hire you. That's prospecting. But today is different. Today we are looking at people who are looking forward to making 100 million. Every photographer wants to end up here, but most of them are in this space. So let's do some maths again. It's a simple mathematics that we're going to do that will take us to this journey. Let's say you're doing 50,000 naira, right? That's what you charge for your shoot, for your birthday shoot, your portrait session, whatever you do. It's 50,000 naira. But you want to get to 100 million. For you to get to 100 million, it means that you have to photograph 2,000 times. This is the number of times you need to photograph for you to hit 100 million. So if you're photographing for 50,000 naira, you need to do it 2,000 times for you to hit it. Let's talk about the other level of people, which are the guys that maybe go on 200,000, right? For you to hit 100 million, you will be photographing 500 people. That's the number of people you need to photograph. So if you're charging 200,000 for your portraiture, charging 200,000 for weddings, you're charging 200,000 for maternity, newborns, whatever it is, you would have to photograph 500 times for you to hit 100 million. But there are another set of photographers. Those ones decide that 100 million, they are going to photograph 20 times. And that's because they are going to charge 5 million naira. So for those ones, they're charging 5 million naira, they're going to find 20 clients. For you, they're charging 200,000, you're going to find 500 clients. And for you, that is charging 50,000 naira, you're going to find 2,000 clients. But most people that are always 50,000, most people that are always 200,000 always want to get to the 5 million people so that they can get to 100 million. But the point is that people always tell them, let's get the word out. People always tell them, do what? Put value. Value. That's what everybody always tell them. Add value, add value, add value. That's how you get from going from 50 to 100 million. But nobody really cares to think about this word. Nobody explains what this word means. So in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you how you can go from 50,000, like I mentioned, to 100 million using the idea of value. So value is in 3 parts. So we divide this into 3. It has 3 legs. The first one, we call it the use value, right? The second leg, we call it the exchange value, right? And the third one, we call it the symbolic value. So every time someone talks about value to you, said, you know, photographers, we always hear that word, add value, add value. What they really mean is that you add use value to that thing, or you add exchange value to that thing, or you add symbolic value to that thing. Okay, let me explain what the use value is, the exchange value is, and the symbolic value is. The use value of a thing. Let's use this pen for example, right? This is a pen for the whiteboard. The primary purpose of this is to help us write on this board. That is the use value. For example, every camera that we buy, whether it's the Sony, is the Nikon, is the Canon, is the Fujifilms, whatever camera you buy, you own, the use value of that camera is for it to make photographs. Another example, whether you're using a Windows system, you're using a Mac system, the use value of a computer is to help you deliver a certain kind of result. As photographers, whether you're using a Windows, you're using a MacBook, the goal is you want to be able to create and edit your work, make your workflow better. That's the use value of the computer. The exchange value is when you're working for time. So when people try to hire you and say, how many hours are you going to work for? How many hours is it for us to hire you to do that thing? So they are paying for the exchange of your time. Most of the people, when they say, we are hiring you for 5 hours, we are hiring you for 10 hours, we are hiring you for 20 hours, what they are playing at is the exchange value. What is that time worth? Not only to you as the person that is doing the job, but also to the person that is paying you, compared to what other people in other industry are charging, right? So imagine when you are saying, I should be earning 50,000 naira for that shoot. In the exchange value part, the person is thinking, 50,000 naira is like minimum wage. So why am I supposed to pay you for 2 hours? The exchange value of the same thing that someone would go to the office for 20 days. That's the exchange value. The symbolic value is the perceived value of a thing. Not necessarily because of its usage, not necessarily because of its exchange, but because of the status that thing would give to the person that buys it, that thing would give to the person that owns it. For example, when we buy MacBooks, we feel a certain type of way. You see photographers that own MacBooks, they always carry like these, they always post about it. They don't tell their friends that they bought a laptop, they tell their friends, oh, I got a MacBook. Do you understand? So if you're, like, let's say luxury vehicles, a Rolls Royce or a Mercedes Benz, a Maybach and all of that, you don't tell your friends you bought a car. You tell your friends you bought a Benz, because by mentioning the brand's name, what that gives to you gives you status. So symbolic value is the status that something that you intend to buy would give to you. It actually is signaling, status signaling. It makes you look better than the other person, or it makes you feel a certain sense of belonging. So you are those kind of photographers that photograph with a certain camera. You are those kind of photographers that use a certain computer to do their work. Or you're a certain form of photographers that use a certain software to actually do their post-production. Does that make sense? So those are the three kinds of value. So when people say you should add value, most of the times, they are not talking about the symbolic value. They are always talking about the use value of that thing and the exchange value of that thing. That's why every time they ask you, I want to move from 50,000 naira, let's say from 50,000 naira to, I want to charge, let's say 500,000 naira, right? The first thing that comes to your mind is, I should increase the deliverables. You want to increase the number of images that you give to them. You want to increase the number of retouching you do in their work. You want to increase the number of print work that you're giving to them. You want to increase the number of photo booths, albums, folio boxes, and the likes. So you're increasing what is in it, which is the use value of that thing. But the truth is, nobody pays this kind of money. Nobody will pay you 500,000 naira for a certain kind of photograph just because you're adding more deliverables to it. You can't grow from 50 to 100 million by increasing the use value of that thing, because there is a limit to how much someone can pay you just because you add use value to them. Another thing, when you talk about the use value, photographers always think, I should go for an upgrade, right? So they think about, maybe it's because my work is not good enough, So soon enough, they go for a lighting upgrade, they go for a retouching upgrade, they go for composition upgrade, they go for master classes and all of that, and they upgrade their skill. They come back, increase their fee, and nobody gets to pay it because upgrade falls under the use value of that thing. I said again. So they go up, learn more about lighting, learn more about retouching, learn more about composition, learn more about colors. Their works are now better than it used to be when they used to charge 50, and now they want to charge 500, but nobody is paying it because upgrade. You upgrading the things you do. You upgrading your photography skill. The skill set, the technical skill set belongs in the use value equation, and nobody pays a premium for use value. You need to understand that. That's why you see that you asking yourself, my work is good. Why not people paying me? Do you get? Because you are playing in this field. Most people that always tell you add value, all they are saying is add more deliverables, add more skills to what you're doing, upgrade yourself, become better. Better at what? Better at the use value. And the truth is, no matter how good the use value is, there is a certain price cap that you can't go over. So if you're trying to go from 50 to 100 million, there is no way you would do that just delivering a use value as a photographer to your clients. The next form of value is the exchange value. The exchange value is, like I mentioned before, why should I pay you 500,000 naira for 3 hours, 4 hours of your time? I remember one time I did a headshot for a client. It was a referral though, so it wasn't like the person saw my marketing, because when it comes to my marketing, I'm very clear on the messaging and the people that I'm trying to attract, so that I don't attract the wrong set of people and then try to explain to them, give them awareness for the things that I do. I allow my messaging in my marketing to do that. But this one was a referral. So she came, she paid for it. It was a headshot. We were supposed to do 2 looks. And in 25 minutes, we had set up, done 2 looks, and brought down our backdrop. And I remember her saying to me, Mayo, do you mean I paid you that amount of money for 25 minutes of your time? Then talking about the exchange value. And I looked at her politely. I said, ma'am, you wanted headshots for your new promotional work and your book? She said, yes. Your publicist said the images that we created, because thank God I used that so they were seeing on the big screen. Your publicist said, we've gotten the images. Your executive assistant said, we've gotten the images. You said, I love those images, the 2 we've created. So we shouldn't be spending more time doing it just because we want to validate the fee you paid. Because what I do is not in the exchange value system. I am not trading my time for the thing that you want to get out of it. I am trading something else. So in 25 minutes, we delivered, but she was, would I use the word pained or surprised that we actually used 25 minutes as opposed to the amount she paid for that service. And that's because she was referring to the exchange value. You don't play the exchange value and get into this spot. It doesn't happen, because people will be thinking, think about it. These people you're trying to get this money from, they go to the office, they work, right? Do you know what it takes to spend time going to work from Monday to Fridays, right? And do you know the amount they get paid for them doing that 4 weeks in a month for them to get paid? How do you expect them to just close their eyes and give you that amount of money for a few hours of you doing that thing? So when you're playing in the exchange value, you are not going to win, because the truth is, what governs the exchange value and the use value is logical reasoning. So logical reasoning is what governs the use value and the exchange value. And you need to understand, for me risking going into psychology and all of that, so when clients want to buy something, I should clean this side. So when client wants to buy something, they make buying decision based on logic and emotion. Those are the two things that people make buying decisions based off of: logic and emotion. But the truth is, when someone is making a buying decision based on logic, there are certain things that they will not do. Because they are logical about it, they are aware. So the use value of a thing and the exchange value of a thing falls into the logical brain. So if you're trying to get people to pay you a certain amount of money and they're not paying you that money, I want to remind you that you're playing in the use value and in the exchange value. And nobody pays people premium for that because their logical brain is at work. It doesn't make sense. Think about it. It does not make any sense for someone to go to the office every day for a whole month, Monday to Fridays, and he's not being paid 500,000. And someone else goes to photograph, takes maybe 5 hours, and is paid over 5 million naira for it. Logically, it does not make sense. Let me give practical example, right? So if you're in southern Nigeria, you're Yoruba, in fact, you're in Lagos, let's just use Lagos and the southwestern part of Nigeria, you realize that there's something everybody loves, which is amala. Yeah, amala and ewedu, right? There's a place you can go to buy amala and it would be 2,000 naira. And we know a place, I don't want to call the name because they are not sponsoring this video, and they sell the amala for what? 50,000 naira a plate. What these guys are selling for 2,000 naira is the same thing these people are selling for 50,000 naira, but except the people that are selling for 2,000 naira are playing in the exchange value and in the use value. Whereas the people that are paying 50,000 naira for the same wedu and amala are playing in the third part of the value system, which is where you want to be if you want to make a lot of money. It is what we call the symbolic value. So people that go to pay 50,000 naira for that amala, they are not doing it because of the ogunfe, the goat meat. They are not doing it because the amala is too smooth. They are doing it because by eating at that restaurant, it gives them status. Because they can use the idea that they ate in that restaurant to brag to their friends. If they cannot use that to give them social status, nobody in their logical brain would pay 50,000 naira for it. So what the people that are charging a lot of money for, whether it's from consumer goods or it's for technological goods like phones, like computers, like automobile vehicles. The reason some vehicles are more costly than the other is because those guys understand how to play in the symbolic value part. They know how to build something into their business that gives the other person status. Let me bring back this example where I made the other time. There's this photographer, Saeed. I think he's from Lebanon, right? And he's in Dubai. He photographed Vicky James' wedding. Yes. Everybody said his photographs are just there. There are Nigerian photographers that might have done better work than he did. Yes, we agree. But he's not playing in the use value because you are thinking about that. He's not playing in the exchange value. Do you know how much that guy charges? That guy charges $30,000. $30,000. So they didn't pay him $30,000 and brought him from Dubai, right? Because of the use value of the thing, because of the pictures. They didn't pay the person because he knows how to use umbrellas. He knows how to do fashion photography. That's not why they brought him. They brought Saeed for Saeed. Because by bringing Saeed, you belong to a different social strata. By bringing Saeed, who you paid $30,000, you are signaling to the next person that you are not their mate. The people that will grow from 50 to 100 million are not the people that will increase their deliverables, are not the people that will upgrade their photography skill. It's the people that understand that symbolic value is what drives the price. I'll say that again. They are the people that understand that symbolic value is what drives the price upwards. So, when you're thinking about your photography, when you're thinking about business, when you're thinking about moving from 50 to 1 million, the truth is you don't want to photograph 2,000 people if you're charging 50,000 to get to 100 million. You do not even want to photograph 500 people for 200,000 to get to 100 million. You want to build your photography and build symbolic value into it. It baffles my mind because when you think about all the things that have symbolic value, they don't call it by the generic name. So generic name is things like you say that person is a photographer, right? That's a generic name. Everybody you know, we are all photographers. But when it comes to people that have built symbolic value into what they do, they call them by their names. So when she brought Saeed, she didn't say, I hired a wedding photographer. She didn't say, I hired a fashion photographer to photograph my wedding. She said, I hired Saeed. Because by mentioning Saeed, it's like you mentioning you're driving a Maybach. It's like you mentioning you're driving like a Rolls Royce. By mentioning the name, Rolls Royce is a car, it's an automobile. The use value of Rolls Royce, of any car, really, is to take you from point A, right, to point B. That's the use value of a thing. It takes you from this part to this part. But the symbolic value is how you show up along the way. Will people ask, who is that guy? So Rolls Royce are not playing in the use value. They're not playing in the exchange value. They want to give you status because they understand by them giving you status, it's how you make your decision from your emotional brain. You will strike off your logical brain and all the decisions will be made by your emotional brain. And when you make decisions by your emotional brain, of course they are not logical. So you'll be you could use the word overpaying, but you're not really overpaying because something has symbolic value doesn't mean it doesn't have the use value. So in this state, because you want to build symbolic value to your photography doesn't mean that your photography is not good. Your photography needs to be great before you could even think about going to the symbolic value. But what I'm saying is that the use value alone, just because your photography is great, will not help you charge the amount of money you want to charge, except whatever you do in the service delivery, built into your messaging, built into your product, built into your photography brand, would give the people status. Think about all the great photographers you know that charge a lot of money for what they do. People call them by their names. It's a name that when they mention photographers, non-photographers, people in different spheres of life know them by that name. They know them to stand for something by that name. So the goal is to move from use value, move from exchange value to symbolic value. So in this video, I have shown you why you wouldn't go from 50 to 100 million is because you are playing in this field, the use value and the exchange value. If you ever want to play in this field, you have to get this unlocked, the use value unlocked, leave the exchange value and cross right over to the symbolic value. Can someone use you to brag? We can name photographers in Nigeria where people say, I want him to photograph my wedding. They don't say I hired a photographer, they mention their names. Because those people's, by mentioning their name, you are giving yourself status in front of other people. That's what symbolic value is. It's emotional, it's irrational. It's not something that, it's not tangible, it's not something that you can hold, right? It's a perceived value. It has everything to do with how you build the perception of your brand, which I could do in another video, how to build symbolic value into what you do. The whole idea of symbolic value and how to increase these things is how I use in my coaching program to help photographers. If you see the result that I get with photographers that go from not making a lot of money to getting to 35 million in a year, it wasn't because of the use value, it wasn't because of the exchange value. It's because we created something, a strategy around how to build and incorporate the symbolic value into their brand. So this is me telling you that you cannot, quote me anywhere, you cannot move from 50,000 naira to 100 million naira based off on use value or exchange value. Every time someone asks you to give value so that you can earn more money, what they failed to tell you was that it wasn't the use value they were talking about. It wasn't deliverables, it wasn't upgrades. It wasn't the exchange value, it wasn't the amount of hours that you work for. It was really the symbolic value, the status in which what you would do, who you are, your brand would give to the people that you're seeking to serve. This is one video I want you to go back and watch, because at the end of the day, if you don't, you will miss out on the great story. So see you in the next video. I hope this helps.